Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. I've got a long-form film study look at Jared Goff's 2025 season here. Of course, it was ultimately disappointing for the Lions, finishing 9-8, missing out on the playoffs. Nonetheless, Goff's statistics were pretty comparable to almost every season. In fact, in some cases, they were quite amazing for the pressure and the adverse situations that he was facing. I'm actually going to start this film study in a place that is a little anomalous or surprising for Goff, and that's his mobility. Being able to escape or avoid pressure momentarily, although it must be said that he was sacked more times in 2025 than any season of his career. I think it was 38, in fact. Here's an off-schedule or unplanned, unscripted, whatever you want to call it, situation in one of their two losses against the Vikings. They got to flip the script there against Minnesota and Brian Flores, obviously. It's a 3-deep, 3-under, the way that it's going to work out post-snap. You can see that it's a mug look by the Vikings, and then two of those defenders are going to drop out underneath, and then Van Ginkel, who's the edge defender on the bottom side of our screen, he's going to drop out in the middle, essentially what I would consider zone blitz. Eric Wilson, free rusher in the middle of the Lions' offensive line. Very disappointing, obviously, as a quarterback, to end up with immediate pressure through the A-gap. It's kind of a chosen suffering here for Detroit, though, in the fact that they released Jahmyr Gibbs out to the bottom side of the screen to their right-hand side, trying to create four to a side. Goff makes it work. He finds St. Brown. It's a five-man rush, like I said, that totally works against Detroit's offensive line. The four to a side nature of it, however, once Goff escapes, allows them to offset it or take advantage of it. I should say there's just not enough coverage element, just not enough people over there for the Vikings to stop this play. Once Goff escapes, it's a 22-yard throw or plus 22-yard throw with one defender in his face on rushing and one, if not two. How many guys did Goff have awareness of? He had to know his internal clock had expired and that they were going to be guys chasing him. I think it's a great play, no matter who the quarterback is. Because I root for Jared Goff, maybe you may think that I'm overstating it. Breaking one tackle, looking like he's going to scramble. It's 3rd and 15, by the way. I had that graphic up on the screen. And then throwing a 22-yard plus dart to St. Brown, who was, a little over 6 yards away himself into open space. I just think is a great play and an opportunity for us to talk about, even though they got swept by the Vikings in 2025, Minnesota sacked Goff 10 times. He remains, I think, cool under fire. Going to try to create a little bit of contrast here with the second play. It's not unscripted or unplanned, if you will. It's a 3rd and 6 from one of Detroit's wins against AFC North teams in 2025. He dealt with a lot of adverse situations, and I think he's just sensational at making, well, some people would say making quick reads, diagnosing or recognizing the coverage. I don't use those phrases for Goff. I don't think he's diagnosing. I don't think he's recognizing. I think he's confirming. This is a 21 personnel group for Detroit, pony version of it because you had Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield. It's another Tampa 2 that Cincinnati is utilizing. They showed a bunch of these in this game. Rewatching the film in the last week, it's just kind of crazy. This is an irregular version of it. So the nickel DB down here at the bottom side of the screen, he's dropping to one of the half-field defenders. And then this safety here is moving all the way to the other side of the field. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll see in a moment that Goff recognizes it pretty quick. Part of that as well is this corner blitz from the top side. Montgomery handles it well, gives Goff time. We didn't actually need time here. Quick recognition, if you ask me. There's the Tampa 2 nature of it. The two safeties, or two DBs, I should say, spot shadowed in orange, or enveloped, I should say, by the orange rectangles. They're the two deep defenders. And then Logan Wilson, the Mike or inside linebacker for the Bengals, is getting depth, and Goff recognizes that this concept, you're going to see it repeatedly in this film. The first guy through running a vertical, second guy through running underneath. Sometimes they switch it. Sometimes it's St. Brown running the vertical / clear out, and Williams running underneath, an in-cut dig, whatever you want to call it. You're just going to see consistent examples of that. What I like here is just an absolutely quick delivery of the football, allowing St. Brown to catch it and convert. Like I said, it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, maybe depending on how you want to measure it. On this drive, in fact, I think Detroit ends up going down to take a 21-3 lead. Same play from the end zone angle. Again, you've got a 21 pony version with both running backs in the game. It didn't seem to materialize. Well, I guess I should say it wasn't as effective as it was billed to be in training camp last year. I think to really make this work, you got to have Gibbs more in the slot, if you ask me, as an actual pass catcher. But in any case, that's the movement you're going to get from the safety. I think it's a Jordan Battle. And to me, Goff recognizes this immediately once the ball is snapped. And it's a Tampa 2. I've got a timeline on the screen, or a timer countdown on the screen, trying to track this a little bit, test it out here in the offseason. There's the possibility that it's slightly off by, maybe 2/100ths of a second or 5/100ths of a second. I don't think it's off by a whole lot. I got it at 2.62 before he's beginning to throw the football. Wilson is the middle runner, and Jameson Williams is the guy threatening with the vertical that the middle runner or Mike linebacker in a Tampa 2 would have to carry. But Wilson, I think, recognizes what's happening just slightly late. That quickness or speed of recognition by any of us regular people would be fantastic, but at the NFL level, the margin is just too small on defense. Goff sees it. I have no idea how he knew this. The reason I'm including this one is to try to accentuate for you the recognition. Look how they're getting to this Tampa 2. Off screen, you have the corner blitzing. This DB, Geno Stone, who actually used to play for the Ravens, he's taking over that corner drop. It's essentially, think like a string. Battle is going to move all the way across the field, and then off screen to us is the nickel defender. He's the other, quote, safety in a too-high delineation or too-high structure post-snap. How Goff knew this? Well, one theory is Cincinnati played a ton of Tampa 2 against them that game, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's what led to Goff being able to do it. I'm fascinated by that topic, how offensive coordinators, quarterbacks, quote, know the coverage that they're going to see. Wish I had access to some of the data. If you're unaware of what I'm talking about, basically going into a game and on the headset in the huddle, an offensive coordinator or play caller would be able to say, hey, look, if they line up this way, it's 82% of the time or whatever, it's man free. If they line up the other way, it's Tampa 2. So, depending on the parts of the field, down distance, and how they match personnel. Goff finished 2025, 34 touchdowns, maybe it was 35, but I think 34, 8 interceptions. To my knowledge, that's his best touchdown to interception ratio of any season of his career. In addition, 68% completion percentage, despite being sacked, like I said earlier, 38 times. So I'm going to kind of bring like a little bit of a back and forth or ping pong nature to the way that we're going to start here, meaning the first play I showed you was an illustration of Goff moving around a little bit, doing something unscripted, finding St. Brown on that 3rd and 15 against that mug look by Minnesota. Here is a 2nd and 2 from the blowout win over the Bears in week 2, and he's definitely going to make something out of almost nothing. The Bears play man here, and no one's open initially. It's a 4-man rush, a slant flat concept from the top side of the screen. What I'm talking about is St. Brown, the backside X receiver, running a slant, just a little in cut, and Gibbs running out into the flats. The 4-man rush, like I said, by Chicago. There's a little bit of a pump fake by Goff towards the bottom side of our screen here. I wonder if Laporta and Jameson Williams don't kind of run their routes into the same portion of the field for whatever reason. I'm talking about these two here, seemingly in the same lane, same potential throwing lane for Goff. You can see that he's in the middle of pump faking, deciding not to throw the football. He does a great job of that, if you ask me, like holding on to the ball because he sees something wrong at the last moment. Of course, in his time in Detroit, there's been a couple of times where that ended up being a fumble. But in any case, the 4-man rush, for whatever reason, moved him out of there. He chose to move out of the pocket, I guess is another way to explain it. Perhaps this edge defender here, he is going to take a big shot at the end of this play. It's going to be a completion to Laporta, running across the middle of the field. St. Brown, the orange route, kind of pushes one defender out of the way, clears out that space for him, for Laporta to run onto. And like I said, Goff takes a heck of a shot here in delivering this to Laporta over the middle. I guess what I'm saying to you guys is, at the same time that you Lions fans, can rely on his, I think, elite decision-making, there's a little bit more of a mobility options than some people portray. Pretty much, I'm responding to some of the national talk that was put out there. Maybe the last 7 or 9 days, I forget exactly who it was, that was essentially characterizing it as if Jared Goff doesn't get his first or second read available, that the play to some extent is almost over. I'm showing you the film. I think he's better at working off schedule than he gets credit for. I know the data would say otherwise about his completion percentage, yards per target, yards per catch, etc. Particularly on some of the third downs against the Vikings, they were fantastic. Against Detroit in 2025, that's clear. This one's not unscripted. It certainly doesn't involve mobility because Goff is almost kind of trapped here in the pocket. I believe this might be one of his best throws of the year in some manner. There's a layered nature to the throw. I covered this in a video on Sam Laporta about 5 or 6 weeks ago. First quarter of their loss on the road in Week 6 against the Chiefs. Actually going to go down and take a 10-6 lead here. A little bit of a late dig to Laporta, okay? So when I say it's not unscripted, it's part of the design. First of all, Kansas City's dropping out into a cover 2, and Bolton, the inside linebacker, kind of makes it look like a Tampa 2. It could be the route depth that caps him. In any case, Laporta's later in the read. Goff looks down here to the bottom side of the screen, and the reason why I want to include this in talking about off-schedule or unscripted stuff and it'll really pop up when you see the end zone angle. It's the lane or lack thereof that Goff has to throw through. Bolton will be in the lane of Laporta, working his way across the field. In addition, I think it's these two D tackles here. One of them, you'll get a better look from the end zone angle. One of them gets his hand up right now, literally in the lane. Goff almost has to throw it around the D tackle and around Bolton. It's a plus 21-yard throw. The pocket's not collapsed. He definitely has time and space, right? I'm not saying that he did not. You've got 2 upfield rushes. Defensive tackle is in the lane, in my opinion. Bolton, in addition, once he opens to the, I don't want to say wrong side, Goff looks here first. Bolton opens to this side first. Could be related. You don't know sometimes if it's predetermined. It should be here because you got trips. This is the passing strength. If you're going to play a Tampa 2, and the Mike linebacker is going to be responsible for the middle runner, then he should open to the passing strength. He finds no work. We're talking about Bolton. He finds no work, works back to looking at Goff, sees Goff identifying something on the backside, and drifts that way. Once he drifted, I'm talking about Bolton moving to the top side of our screen right now. Once he drifted, that opened up that lane for Laporta to run onto. Goff is an incredible processor, in my opinion. During the play, he's just as good before the play at recognizing what the coverage could end up being. And I'm trying to basically get back to the point, my main point, which is that he doesn't recognize things post-snap. I think he confirms them. Here it's a 4-man rush. Same play against the Chiefs, by the way. Trips to the left-hand side for us on the screen. Laporta is off screen to our right. He's the backside X here, if you ask me. In any case, Goff throws it around Bolton, who you can see Bolton opening up, looking to his left, while Goff is looking to that same side as well. There's 2 chips that occur to help out. You got Montgomery here, and then tight end there on the defensive end. Laporta works all the way back across the field. Look at this throw. Now, I'll pull this back just for a moment. I think it's Tillery, the defensive tackle, 99, right there with his arms literally in Jared Goff's field of vision. Laporta is down here for you guys, just next to my logo, behind Leo Chenal, who, of course, has since left Kansas City. I love this throw. I think the degree of difficulty is 95 at the NFL level. I don't even know how he saw Laporta. Well, he knows the play. Goff knows the play, but he's getting this throw around the defensive tackle, through this throwing lane here. I know I'm zoomed in. I don't know if you guys like that or not. It kind of has to be the case at this point with the way that the YouTube structure is as far as content ID. This is one of my favorite throws of the year. Hopefully the way that I broke it down a little bit for you guys can do it justice. Essentially, I'm trying to paint the picture for you that Goff's a little bit more capable in unscripted or unsettled situations. But in addition, when windows are closing, or, well, that play right there was no window, he can be damn near perfect if you need him to. This is, of course, the demolition on the road against the Commanders. I'm sure it felt good to watch that one live. Uh, Coming back here to watch it now, probably a fourth time for me, and just focus on the offense was fun as well. This is a similar concept. The one that I referenced or said was going to be repeated many times. It'll basically be the second guy through. Laporta in this kind of short motion from the bottom side of our screen, left to right, for the offense, and he'll go vertical through the seam. So I call the seam, basically the outside of the hash to somewhere, 2 to 3 yards inside the top of the numbers. Of course, the hashes at the NFL level are, radically different from the high school level. So you got two guys going through the same lane, Laporta and St. Brown. And the second guy through that lane is on the in cut. It's a consistent theme that you see in Detroit's offense, not just in this video that I'm going to give you. Too high safety structure, pro snap, and St. Brown makes two guys miss. Well, he splits two defenders. I'm talking about these two defenders here. He's able to put his foot in the ground, catch the ball, put his foot in the ground at the same time, I guess I should say, and then split these two defenders and score. What I would offer to you is that his ability to make that play, St. Brown's ability, the athletic ability is his and his alone. But Goff put him in position because of the quick delivery. And I'm just trying to, well, you probably don't need me to as a Lions fan, hopefully make it more clear, I guess, that this guy, Goff, his ability to do things quickly, make decisions, is a huge asset for playmakers on this team, as well as, him being a little bit more mobile and able to move around and make plays with his feet or throw the ball once he's moved around with his feet. I think this is a great example here of Goff operating on time. And for whatever reason, he gets like minimized for that, or people knock him for operating on time when he's evaluated by high-level analysts, at least. In our Lions Discord, someone shared a couple of links here recently, and I went and listened to it briefly and was just somewhat disappointed. Here, once again, against the Commanders, I think we've got just another variation on that same tune. And I don't think it's a negative when a quarterback at the NFL level understands the structure of the concept, knows or has a pretty good idea of what coverage he should get, and then exploits it instantly. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's my background as a high school and youth football coach. Like, those are all assets. Those are all things that you want out of your quarterback. In any case, it's 2-on-2 down here to the bottom side of the screen. Once again, St. Brown and Williams. And Washington's countering with two DBs. They're going to bring five defensively. They're going to rush the five guys that are on the line of scrimmage. So calling this a zone blitz is a little bit of a misnomer because there's no surprising nature, I should say, to the blitz. What's going to happen here is the inside tight end, who I think is Brock Wright, he's going to pull Bobby Wagner with him, illustrated by Wagner's body moving with that red line. Second of all, Laporta is going to run the vertical and then kind of turn it into a corner route at like the 11 o'clock position, on your screen. So he's going to occupy or hold that corner. And basically we have really the second guy through here concept that I talked about a couple of times already. They clear out that side of the field, and Gibbs, I know what people will say is he's isolated on an inside linebacker and he's given a choice route. I don't think this is a choice route. What I do know is the inside linebackers are stretched. Wagner goes this way. This inside linebacker expands horizontally. With Gibbs' route, it's a 3 deep, 3 under, so he's hot 2. Hot 2 means whoever 2 is to my side, I'm hot on, but there's a new 3. Gibbs is the guy, Gibbs is 3, okay? 1, 2, 3, numbering from outside in for the defense. So since Gibbs pushes there, this really, I think, stresses the fabric of a 3 deep, 3 under. Wagner occupied underneath. Laporta is pulling this corner with him on the vertical, and it's over. I think this is a hard-coded, in-breaking route. From a Goff standpoint, look where it's placed. Yeah, it's a huge lane, right? It's obviously a huge lane. But it's the location, perfect. The accuracy. The timing, I think, is what is really exquisite here. You really couldn't go out there and hand that to Jahmyr Gibbs any better than he did right here, allowing him to run onto it. I'm not sure about you. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of Gibbs catching the ball downhill. Screens to me. I don't know the numbers. I don't pretend to know the data. Just going off memory. And keep in mind, I've just watched 6 complete games in the last 7 to 9 days to produce this video. I didn't feel like the screens to Gibbs were nearly as effective in the pass game as opposed to getting him the ball through the air while he's running downhill. As an aside, the three deep, three under nature of that play, zone blitz-esque, if you will. I recently did a video on a different version of a zone blitz, 2 deep, 4 under. I'll link it up in the description. You're more than welcome to check it out. Does include a little bit of Lions film, but mostly focuses on the Seattle Seahawks usage of it. 2 deep, 4 under is really my favorite zone blitz. In my opinion, does a better job of covering of geometrically covering the space of the field from a horizontal standpoint. Another play that Goff executes perfectly, a designed play concept. I think he had almost 340 yards and 3 touchdowns in this one. The loss, of course, to the Rams in Week 15. It's a 1st and 10. I think this is after the interception, the amazing interception by Aiden Hutchinson of Matt Stafford. So base defense is on the field for LA because Detroit is in their 12 personnel grouping. 2 tight ends down here at the bottom side of the screen. And so the Rams have matched with their base defensive structure. I think that's a defensive end out there to the top side. In any case, it's twin wing. It's a 2-by-2 formation. 2 receivers at the top. That's the twin. And then the wing down here is the 2 tight ends. Oftentimes it'll be a tight end and a fullback. But in any case, it's a balanced formation. And here's what you got. It ends up being 4 to a side. I love this concept for Detroit. They ran it a ton under Ben Johnson. What I'm talking about is one of the tight ends from the wing side. We're going to cross sitting down on this hash. Running back flashing out to the flats. And then you can do whatever you want here to create conflict over the top of the inside linebacker level. So what ends up occurring here is this route by Jamison Williams is going to occupy or pull that safety, illustrated by him tracking that blue line right there. And it just isolates St. Brown on the outside corner. Similar, if you ask me, and that's exactly where Goff's looking. Similar, if you ask me, to a couple of the other concepts that I've showed you. Goff's just confirming, and then bang, throw the football now. St. Brown, easy win. They went after that guy, I think it's Durant, I could be wrong, 14, who may have left LA at this point, but they went after him with this same concept a couple of times. Really seemed to do a great job on rewatch of attacking the Rams' base defense through the air. Not with the run at all, right? I think they only had 70 yards on the ground in that one. In my opinion, Goff is, from a statistical and a production standpoint, almost scheme or offensive coordinator proof as far as output. And the way that I would explain that is he can obviously be pushed to another level, elevated 3%, 5%, maybe 7% by having a good, very good, or a great offensive line, an exceptional play caller who brings with him, a high-level, fantastic scheme. I do project that could be the dynamic in 2026. You sure hope so, right? 3rd and 13 that I thought was really important to include in this video because, there's no Laporta here at this point. He's out for the year. No St. Brown. He was injured, I think, halfway through the first quarter. And this is adverse circumstances, right? You had a 5-1 start to the year. At this point, had losses to the Packers in Week 1, obviously loss to the Vikings after the bye, really disappointing. And here you go into the game with no Laporta, and St. Brown gets hurt in the first quarter. It was ominous, if you ask me. And I think Goff was up to the challenge, to be honest with you. So it's a 3-man rush scheme, and what I would refer to as an invert Tampa 2. So it's a 1 high safety structure. Tampa 2, of course, you need 2 safeties, right? You guys saw how Cincinnati did it one time. I'm going to draw a mirror image of it. 1 safety rolled to half there, and then the nickel defender moved to half here, roughly, and they created that 2 high safety structure. I'm talking about the pass that Goff's stuck in there to St. Brown underneath of Logan Wilson's drop. Here it's an invert Tampa 2. It's the 2 outside corners that are dropping, so they're trying to confuse Goff. Good luck, right? But no St. Brown on a 3rd and 13. This is Tom Kennedy up the seam, quick recognition. I do wonder if the bottom side corner isn't getting enough. He isn't squeezing this enough, essentially doing what some people call dividing two potential verticals. But in any case, Goff has that lane, gets the ball there up high, but gets it there quick enough that Kennedy can catch it and then protect himself, get down, throwing it over the second level of the defense quickly with safeties. If it had not been an invert Tampa 2, if there had been a safety here already, then maybe that guy can make a break on the ball. I don't know that Goff identified the invert 2 nature of it. It's such a, I don't want to say rarely used coverage at the NFL level, but you see it more in high school. You see it more out of high school defenses that feel like the threat of the pass isn't that high, that someone can't execute consistently. So that, they'll get their corners to invert, get another defender down into the box to hopefully stop the run. So, I don't know if Goff identified the invert 2 nature of it. I think he did. That's my suspicion, but I can't prove it. Ball's out quick. It's Tom Kennedy. There's no St. Brown there, and that's why I think this is super important. Protect him from the DBs. Did take a shot, I think, from McKinney. Great throw in adverse situations. Not in terms of the pressure, but the situation. Down 10-0 at home. No St. Brown or Laporta. 3rd and 13, and he goes to Tom Kennedy for a big game. Another throw from that same game, and I'm going to bring this up just to talk about a slight little movement that Goff does with his shoulders, with his front shoulder, that could possibly influence this inside linebacker here. But as we get through the play, you'll see that inside linebacker is really focused on Gibbs for a moment. In any case, you're talking about, I think this is the first game after 3 in a row against NFC East teams. He really struggled versus the Eagles, obviously. Here against Green Bay, no Laporta, no St. Brown. I think 20 of 26 passing for 256 and 2 touchdowns. I love this play. It's a quick read. Now, up 10, I'm talking about from Green Bay's standpoint. Up 10, they're going to go show a 2-high safety look and then play a 2-high safety coverage. This inside linebacker doesn't actually expand this far with Gibbs' route. He really, maybe that's about as far as he gets. I'm talking about the width that inside linebacker gets that I'm making him move or display right here. But the focus on Gibbs, and I think enough front shoulder movement by Goff forces that inside linebacker a little bit higher and opens up the window for Goff to rifle the pass through. So we're talking about this inside linebacker here. People talk about, he moved him with his eyes. Once you know the drills that inside linebackers do, it's not really about moving them with their eyes. It's oftentimes just a front shoulder. So Goff is looking there now, but the inside linebacker's already looking there as well. So, it's not necessarily like he's moved him with his eyes right now. I think it's the front shoulder now. So the little quick dip of his front shoulder, turning, clockwise. I'm talking about Goff, turning clockwise here, getting that front shoulder pointed, moves this guy just enough such that Williams' route sneaks in there behind him. Goff did throw it, quote, over the second level, but this is a 5 out of 5 throw, meaning speed and velocity. Goff knew where he was going with it, I think, down 10. He's like, all right, I got a 2-high safety look. I'm going to make this inside linebacker have to read something. The corner's sitting in the flats. We don't need you out there, dude. I'm talking about this corner here. We don't need you to expand with that. He didn't expand a whole lot. It's not like the window is huge. At the NFL level, that's a good window to throw through. I think it ends up being 44 yards. Goff's just superb, in my opinion, at the little variations or little adjustments during the course of a play. In particular, when he's got time and space, and you show him. He was sacked, I think, 3 times in this game. This one may have been in some ways my favorite game to watch from a Goff standpoint, because of the adverse nature of who he didn't have out there on the field. Look, I omitted some rough games here. I think I've got 3 plays, maybe 4 more. Right, he had 3 fumbles against the Vikings in Week 17. Against Philly, the road loss, he's 14 of 37. Weather, a factor there, but the Eagles have a tremendous defensive line that overwhelmed Detroit's O-line. Week 1 against Green Bay as well. I covered that one, in great length. Obviously, if you guys have listened this long, you probably checked it out after that loss, unfortunately. This one against the Rams, sharp, just like that game, the home loss, 31-24 to the Packers. Unfortunately, Green Bay was able to convert that 4th and 3 late. Wicks against Brian Branch, which is a little bit surprising. In any case, same concept or similar concept here. Occupy the safety. In this case, it's St. Brown. and then run over the top of him. That is Williams. Once again, I've got the timer on the screen here. I got it at 2.9 seconds, something like that. It's in the range. I don't think it's 3.4 or anything like that. In fact, when I first saw this, I was like 3.9 sounds like a little high to me. He doesn't need much time. He's got elite understanding. And here, watch the safety's reaction to St. Brown's route. Goff is already starting to throw the football, and I don't think you've got a tremendous reaction from the safety that's leading Goff to make that read, to make that decision. Essentially, what I'm saying to you is he understands the coverage. He understands where players, quote, should be. It's elite at the NFL level, in my opinion. I don't think there are 5 quarterbacks in the NFL better than Jared Goff at recognizing things pre-snap, confirming it post-snap, and knowing where to go with the football. Williams, to me, is a little bit of an interesting case to talk about as far as Jared Goff goes. For 2025, he had the same yards per catch, basically, as 2024, 17.2 to 17.3 the year before. Same number of touchdowns, 7. Went over 1,000 yards receiving once again, and at 11 yards per target overall. I think Jared Goff is who he is. It's the rest of the offensive line specifically, that needs to increase their consistency, but also be able to compete better against the higher level defenses. Essentially, I don't think Jared Goff is the issue in 2025. 3 more plays here. Now, these are all of the play action nature, to be honest with you. And one of them does include a really sick throw, kind of sidearm a little bit, very similar to that Chiefs throw to Laporta over the middle late on a dig route. This is a 1st and 10, week 5. The Lions are already up 21-3 here. 3rd quarter on the road against the Bengals. This is the type of dynamic that I think Sewell, Miller, Radledge in his 2nd year, hopefully an improvement at center in Cade Mays, build the play action off of the run threat. And in my opinion, they catch Cincinnati here twice, trying to stop the run either by personnel group, it's 12 personnel right now, or by situation, down and distance, 1st and 10, up 21-3 in the 3rd quarter. So here's the concept that you get by the receivers, Williams from the top side, and St. Brown. I saved these till the end because, well, I like the design, number one, but number two, I didn't think viewers necessarily would get as excited about play action stuff. I like the intricate design, and I'm using it here specifically because I want the Lions to have an offensive line and a run game that allows them to control the flow of the game. Let me restate the last part. Allows Goff to control the flow of the game because I think he's so spectacular at changing the play when he finds a particular look. This is a counter play action, and the running back path, Montgomery, and the tight end / fullback, whatever you want to call them, is Brock Wright. I love how they've done this for years. This is the tight end stepping off the midline. The midline is illustrated by this blue line here, and the tight end stepping off of it let me do it from this path. It means the tight end is stepping off the midline to then veer back to the other side. Why step off the midline? Because you're, quote, giving the midline to the quarterback. So here's what I mean when I say that. So we'll unpause it here in a moment. Goff is on the midline. You can see he goes directly straight back, essentially on the left hash. So Brock Wright got to get his butt out of the way. And I don't think this guy plays this well at all, but I do love the design of it. Laporta out in the flats. And because of the counter nature, meaning the steps by Montgomery and the pulling aspect of the right guard, that's Radledge, then that's going to hold any second-level defender. Cincinnati's in a 6-2 look by walking a safety up. And this is Laporta, huge gain. Laporta's not a complimentary player, in my opinion. He's a featured player. Well, he kind of bridges that gap sometimes, right? He's got the talent to be a featured player in a different city, a different NFL team. Laporta could get 80, 85 catches a year like he did as a rookie. But in this offense with Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, an emerging Tesla, and obviously the big dog Jahmyr Gibbs as far as total touches. Laporta's touches are not going to be nearly as high as other tight ends across the NFL. This type of play, the play action, this is why I'm including this, because it puts you in more favorable situations, high percentage opportunities, not just for Goff. He can execute. 68% last year completion percentage, plus I think 4.25 touchdown to interception ratio, 7.9 yards per attempt. Talking about Goff, obviously. That's a little over. That's three hundredths above his career average. 11.6 yards per completion, which is literally 1/100th above his career average. Basically, I think Jared Goff's who he is, and it's up to the rest of the offense to be more consistent. Offensive line, basically. This is one of my favorite plays from all of 2025, no matter the team, no matter the player. Got two more plays here queued up for you. I didn't necessarily plan on doing a 40-minute Jared Goff video, but at some point, once I get 10 or 12 plays included and I can't cut any out, this is what you're going to get. So you're more than welcome to let me know if you don't like the long-form content. You wouldn't be listening at this point if you did. 6-2 look by Cincinnati. Again, this is a different play. They've walked a safety up as an inside linebacker, and they've walked an inside linebacker up as an edge defender. So it's a response to 12 personnel play action. And this is beautiful, and it includes some real genius, if you ask me, from Goff. So this defensive end, let me pull this back a little bit so you can see who I'm talking about pre-snap. This is a defensive end. I think it's Sample. And there's no way Goff sees him for where Goff is looking right now. Goff is trying to track St. Brown, moving across the field, decides that the inside linebacker, once again, it's Logan Wilson, that the inside linebacker right here is going to be able to disrupt that. And so Goff pump fakes for a moment. I think he was going to go there. Goff was going to go to St. Brown. You can see Goff pump fake and then hold on to the ball. Watch him like go on the second lane. You do have a defensive end pass rusher, kind of disrupting his outside path. I thought he was going to go sidearm for a moment, and then at the last second, two things happened. I think that defensive end that I kind of talked about, actually it's a defensive tackle, B.J. Hill, my apologies for that. And then he sees this defensive end late. There's no way that Goff saw that defensive end right off the snap because of where he was looking, number one. And number two, it was a play-action pass with his back turned. It's a great example, if you ask me, of Goff being able to... I almost think he changes his arm slot here for a moment. I think he's going to throw sidearm now. You can see the way that he's opening up his front shoulder to allow the arm to drag a little bit. And then I believe he goes back overhand and throws it around this defensive end. It's a beautiful play, if you ask me. Maybe you don't see as much beauty in it as I do. I actually talked about it after that win over the Bengals. I just think Goff I think he's got NBA all-star point guard level awareness. I'm talking about elite point guards like Chris Paul, John Stockton, Magic Johnson. I'm old, so Magic and John Stockton I can talk about. He throws the ball in front here, and that's where, when I was creating this video, I kind of started thinking about him. As a point guard, the foot speed and the agility or lack thereof is where that analogy obviously breaks down. Last one that I've got for you, and once again, it's off play action. I want to see this offensive line control more games and give. I don't even know that it's about giving Goff the ability to choose run pass. I think it's about making things easier for Petzing and Kafka and the offensive line if and when they actually do call a pass play. In any case, this illustrates, I think, the weapons that they've got with the primary weapons that they've got. Even though Laporta's out at this point in time, Gibbs downhill on a run concept, St. Brown up top, Williams at the bottom. The time and space that is afforded on these play actions, Goff has immaculate play action fakes, if you ask me, placing the ball out in front, giving inside linebackers an opportunity to see the thing longer. In addition, I mentioned this in another video, sometimes on play action stuff, people will move the running back a third of a yard or even a half of a yard. Ray Lewis talked about this years ago. I've got a chance to watch him in practice, I think in like a mini camp. And he talked about that. In addition, the running back's getting a little bit slower start on play action. In any case, that would elongate, stretch out the conflict for the second level of the defense. Here you've got a 30-plus yard throw or plus 30-yard throw out in front of Williams by a little bit more than 9 yards. I actually think it's slightly underthrown here, if you ask me. You'd like to see Goff throw this out. He's got Forbes beat, I think, pretty clean across the field. I love what Goff can do on these play action opportunities. You can say he's old school It's traditional, it's classic, it's not forward thinking, it's not modern. Call it whatever you want. You can't say that it's ineffective, especially when it comes to Jared Goff. I prefer to see them major in under center stuff as much as possible. Set up complementary plays, be it play action, reverses, trick plays, etc. How do you quantify Goff's 2025? Some stats are good, some are not. He threw for less first downs. I think he actually threw for slightly more first downs than he did in 2022, right? Ben Johnson's first year calling plays. Goff had a lower success percentage, whatever that means or however they judge it. I'm not a huge fan of that metric. I've looked into it enough to know that there's some weaknesses to that as well. In particular, a pass play on 3rd and 6 when you are up by 17 points in the fourth quarter. Of course, it's okay to take the check down and keep the clock running and not turn the football over. In any case, getting back to his stats and the yin and yang nature of it, he was sacked more than ever before. I think 38 times in 2025. At the same time, Goff goes 34 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. However, there's 6 fumbles. 3 of them came in the Week 17 loss to the Vikings. I think the Lions have to beat Flores once or twice. Simply put, if they go out in 2026 and they do the same thing against the rest of the league, but they sweep Minnesota, you're obviously talking about 11 wins. People can talk about O'Connell all they want as the head coach. The bottom line is the foundation of Minnesota's team is Brian Flores. And as a Lions fan, I'm obviously a Ravens fan primarily, but someone rooting for the Lions, I was hoping we got Brian Flores as a head coach. I'm super happy with Jesse Minter. But we would have gotten someone with the mentality I think Baltimore needs to make us play tougher, make us play with more of a sense of competing for 60 minutes. But it will also get Flores out of the Lions division. I think Detroit's got to sweep somebody, right, to make this work and be where they want to be at the end of the regular season. The schedule, I know, was supposed to be on the lower end of the difficulty level. NFL kind of turned into a shit sandwich in some ways, but that's what they do. They can't help it. As far as Goff, I think he'll succeed personally no matter what. 9-8, 11-6, 13-4, excuse me. I think he'll succeed no matter what. I have to tell you that other than Lamar Jackson, you guys know he's my favorite player. I root for Goff as much as any competitor in the NFL. Lamar, and that's saying something. I want to let you know, Lamar brought me back to watching the Ravens. I had given up in like 16, 17 because of Harbaugh, the lack of preparation for certain games. I'm talking about the final loss to New England on the road when we're up by 14 points in the second quarter in the playoffs. The lack of professionalism that Harbaugh, allowed some of the players to demonstrate. Number 2, and then number 3, some of Harbaugh's decisions from a personnel standpoint. I had stopped watching the Baltimore Ravens. I was involved in other things. I was a youth football coach and also founded, and then coached a youth track program for 6 months out of the year. So I was busy. But Lamar brought me back once he was drafted in 2018. I liked him before the NFL draft that year. I loved the way he talked about the game and didn't put himself above others. So when I tell you that Goff is right there for me, just below, a tick below as far as who I root for, it's important that you understand. And that's why I digressed into that. At this point, I've spent so much time analyzing him, Goff. It's increased my appreciation. Hopefully you know that I'm direct and honest about it. Either one of them, Lamar, Goff, or Sam Darnold, the quarterback for the Seahawks, I haven't watched as much of him as the other 3. Look, I'll tell you, I lost followers from the Ravens fan base from being direct about Lamar. And I'll give you an example. And I'm using this to set up to tell you what I think of Jared Goff. Hopefully it's applicable to you or related. When the Ravens lost to the Chiefs in 2023 AFC Championship game, I was extremely critical of the whole team. Harbaugh, first and foremost, along with Lamar. Mike McDonald, too. I didn't think our defensive preparation in the first half lived up to his standard at all. I lost 100 followers on that day. I can go back and look at it still. You can track, plus or minus for followers. And I lost 73 the next. I didn't care. I would say the same damn things because I'm telling you what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think now. You probably, if you're still listening at this point, then you probably realize that's just the kind of guy I am. I believe Goff should be mentioned among the elite of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. His stats prove it. The winning percentage is really good. It's not as good as others, not as good as Lamar's or Patrick Mahomes other than last year. Goff 45-23 in the regular season the last 4 years, right from 22 to 25. Just under 66% win percentage. He went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. I do enjoy the disparity, duality of trying to analyze both of these guys, Lamar and Goff, Sam Darnold included. They're all three different players. For me, I feel like it's made me better at evaluating and discussing football. I recognize, however, that there could be people listening who say, well, if you root for Goff and Lamar that much and you're that big of a fan of them, I don't think you can be impartial. I don't think you can be balanced. Well, then, A, you probably aren't listening, or B, don't listen anymore. Simple as that. NFL or otherwise, as far as digging into the film of players, the amount of time I've spent is Lamar number one, Goff number two. And I appreciate the differences for them. I guess what I'm saying, I still think he can win a Super Bowl in Detroit with the right formula. Lamar too, right? Goff is not the relative weakness in Detroit. He hasn't been, nor do I think he will be in the future. I don't have any concern or worry about him against any team in the NFL. Now look, the Vikings and the Packers in the division, they certainly impacted the offense. But let me read out some of the stats for Goff. In those 4 games, 2 against Minnesota, 2 against the Packers, 0-4, he was sacked 17 times. He fumbled 3 times, right? Once, all 3 in the one game, second loss to the Vikings. But he was also at 71% completion percentage. His yards in the games, his output, those 4 games, 225 week 1, 284, 256 against Minnesota, and then 197 in the final game against Green Bay. 3 interceptions against 6 touchdowns, like I said. So tell me where you are. We're about 7 or 9 days out from national analysts discussing Goff, and it just seemed really surface level. It bothered me enough that I sped up my process here. Is he incredibly mobile? No. Certainly not anything like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, when healthy, or other guys. But I think Goff can get so many things done that some of those other guys don't. I'm talking about pre-snap recognition. I'm talking about post-snap confirmation and getting the ball out to playmakers so quick that they can run after the catch or make a move after the catch. Think the St. Brown touchdown that I showed you against Washington. Maybe you guys think I went on too long with this one. I can't do anything when I'm not serious about it. It's a character flaw and hopefully an asset at times. I hope you enjoyed it to some extent. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comment section. If you think other Lions fans would like the film study that I put out here, as well as my comments at the end, even though it took 45 minutes for me to get to it, you're more than welcome to let me know in the comment section and or share a link to this video out on social media. I don't beg for that shit. I'm not ever going to. If you like my work, let me know in some kind of way. If you have ever considered supporting me to any degree, there is a Patreon that is, I think, $5 a month or $4.99 a month, for Lions fans that you can join, and it gives you immediate 24/7 access to a Lions Discord where we discuss things, hopefully to this level, to this depth, on a daily basis. Appreciate you guys' time.